Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. I hope some of you had a long 3-day weekend. We're excited to have you all join us. Looks like we've got a good group of folks joining us in the attendee list. We're excited to see all of you. We're going to give it just a minute or two for this group to populate. And as we do that, I will get us rolling. Hello again. I'm Jordan Trout. I'm the Director of Marketing here at PeopleForBikes, and I am very excited to be introducing all of you to our 2025 Workplan webinar with our fearless leader, Jenn Dice. For those of you who are newer to PeopleForBikes, this is an annual work plan that we release every year that highlights everything that we're focusing on for the next 12 months, 24 months to make the US the best place in the world to ride a bike. And I'm so excited to introduce Jenn Dice to all of you. And Jenn's going to walk you through this work plan. And at the end, we will have a Q&A. So please feel free to drop your questions either in the chat or in the Q&A box. And I will make sure your most pressing questions get answered. Jenn, welcome to our virtual screen.
Thank you, Jordan. Thanks for all your prep. We are excited to release the 2025 work plan. And you all should have gotten an email. You should have gotten a physical copy in your inbox. Just so the team knows, I'm not able to advance the slides, but just wanting to let the folks that have tuned in today know that this is our annual tradition. We work with our board, our committees, to really come together and just detail an aggressive, proactive agenda to drive the bike industry forward, both growing the bike industry, strengthening the bike industry, and strengthening bicycling in America. And we're lucky that we have so many industry leaders that come together. They put competition aside, they put their individual brand or company aside, and come to our boards, our subcommittees, our working groups to really think about how do we grow all of bicycling? How do we grow the pie for everyone? Thank you to our 345 supplier members. We signed up 40 new members in 2024, and we couldn't do it without you. Your investment fuels all of our work at the federal, state, and local level. It fuels all of our industry initiatives, our public policy, our infrastructure work, and so much more. And the next slide that I threw in might be the most boring slide ever. I'm actually showing you an org chart, but I just really wanted to instill the fact that we have industry experts close to the product wanting to grow their segment that truly believe in the power of the bike to change the world. They come together on our boards, our subcommittees, our working groups to really help each one of these topic areas tackle the toughest, hardest thing. So the next slide is sort of like details some of our boards and subcommittees: e-bike, EMTB, legislative, legal, and safety, research and stats, sustainability, apparel, domestic manufacturing, and so much more. If you're on one of our boards or subcommittees or working groups, thank you. If you're interested in observing one or reading one of the minutes, or sitting in just seeing how your company can get more engaged and involved in our proactive bike and bike industry agenda, we would welcome you being part of our trade association, moving our initiatives forward. So thank you to our industry volunteers. Our agenda today, we're going to walk you through our mission and vision. We're going to talk about specifically 2025 key initiatives and our proactive, really aggressive agenda. And of course, we're going to invite you to our 2025 Bicycle Leadership Conference. It's coming up in Tucson. It will sell out. We're way ahead of last year's numbers. Sign up early, sign up often. I think the hotel prices go up in just a couple of days. So we want to make sure you secure your spot in Tucson, where we go much deeper than we will today on today's webinar. So please plan to join us. We are the U.S. Bike Industry's Trade Association and a national bike advocacy nonprofit. Many of you came from outside industries and understand what a business trade association does. We are a high performance group. We represent the voice of business before Congress in all 50 states and about 2,000 U.S. cities, where we really push those cities to improve their bikeability and their city rating score in those communities. So our big goal, our vision, is to be the best place in the world to ride a bicycle. So on-road, off-road, from young to old, all ages and all abilities, from where you live to where you want to go. We know we have a very clear vision for how to get there. We know the plays in the playbook. We've done plenty of pilot projects. We know exactly how to change America by bike, state by state, city by city. What we don't have, honestly, is scale and growing in this major way. I'm going to give you 2 seconds of filibuster while Jordan takes over.
Welcome back, Jen.
Nothing like from the home office today, as I'm sure the FedEx guy is out front. But we have 3 areas of influence to back up our our overall vision and goal: infrastructure, policy, and participation. We are laser focused on bike infrastructure, on-road, off-road, bike share, bike parks, you name it. And we accelerate the construction of fun, safe, and connected places to ride. We advance pro-bike and pro-bike business policy, again, at all levels of government, and all the policies to support the bike industry, all the policies to support bike infrastructure, all in an effort to grow participation, reducing barriers to access and welcoming so many more people to the simple joys of the bicycle. Our annual work plan, again, we mailed out about 3,000 of these things. So if you want a paper copy, send us an email. We'll be happy to mail one to you. Digitally, we sent out about 20,000. This is our annual tradition of being transparent, being proactive, being accountable. And with those boards and subcommittees, with so many of our industry experts and industry volunteers, really tackling the key initiatives that will move the needle towards our vision: a more robust and thriving bike industry, more robust and thriving bicycling, growing participation in America. So we divide our work into those 3 pillars: infrastructure, public policy, and participation. And you can see those on page 6 and 7 of the work plan. We can drop a PDF copy into the chat so you can follow along. But I couldn't start this webinar without talking about trade. We have been all trade all the time, as you can imagine, since January 20th, and we've seen initiative after initiative coming out of the Trump administration, just to center us in our 4 sort of top trade priorities. We have been working on the generalized system of preferences renewal for many years. Many of you know it expired in 2020. The GSP is basically favorable trade status for about 120 developing countries, many countries that our supplier members have moved to in an effort to get out of China, and they've moved entire supply chains. And since 2020, the federal government has not been paying back our supplier members for this tariff relief that's been promised. This is one of our #1 trade priorities. We actually have a CEO fly-in happening next Monday and Tuesday in DC. We will continue. There's bipartisan support for it in last Congress and in this Congress, and we'll continue to champion GSP. We've been working on Section 301 tariffs, I think, since 2017 or 2018. Section 301 tariffs, of course, you know, for all of you that are intimately and sadly familiar, are on China. We have probably saved the bike industry close to $600 million in tariff relief, but many of the exclusions that we successfully earned for the bike industry expired last year. So we will continue to fight Section 301 tariffs. We have been championing de minimis reform. And for those of you that are unfamiliar, de minimis is when foreign sellers send something into the United States under $800. They escape all tariffs, they escape all taxes, they come in duty-free, and to a tremendous detriment to our US-based companies. And for a moment, we thought we were getting de minimis. It is on hold right now. We are pushing this administration to continue to bring it back and to reform it similar to other countries. Some other countries have de minimis as low as $50 to $100, and we want to lower that threshold and reform the system and the collections process. And the final big key area is supporting domestic manufacturing. We have many current members that manufacture here in the United States. We have many that want to manufacture or want to assemble, but we know you have to have the right tax, tariff, incentive, loan climate to be able to do that. And we've supported legislation before Congress to create that environment for manufacturing clusters here in the United States. Our domestic manufacturing and supply chain working group is looking at moving those public policies and smaller pieces of legislation through this next Congress as well. So we are writing legislation in Congress on what that could look like to really foster domestic assembly and manufacturing in the United States and phase it in over the required timeframe that it would need for our manufacturers to be here in the US. Next slide. Crafting legislation and tracking progress. So that's probably a broad bucket for, we have the most amazing public policy team, both in DC and scattered across the country. At the state and local level, I read this morning that we're tracking now 440 pieces of legislation. We monitor all 50 state legislatures, and they are in session right now. There is tremendous opportunity, and there's some very real threats at the state and local level as well. So our policy team does this, so you don't have to. So we can tell you when something bubbles up in California, or Missouri, or New York, so that it can help shape both how you do your business and how we garner recreational and transportation bike access. Our next slide, I believe, is about recreational wins and opportunities. So we just passed the very successful Explore Act. We've been working on that for almost a decade, and it's modernizing the permit process, building adaptive trails, a great program for veterans in the outdoors. It improves and modernizes access to recreation. And that was a really big win for us, passing the Explore Act late last year. We also see a tremendous opportunity for EMTB access. Just last year, our team expanded electric mountain bike access to more than 4,000 new miles of trails on our public lands. And our team is not stopping anytime soon. We will continue to expand that access in 2025 and beyond. I'd also say on the federal land agency side, many folks that are our supplier members don't necessarily know that we also monitor the National Park Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the U.S. Forest Service, several other federal land agencies on how they regulate and manage recreation and our recreational assets. Last year alone, we probably wrote 43 position papers asking and telling the federal agencies on how best to manage for bikes. This is a very important public process. It's not sexy and exciting, but it is critical to expanding recreational access and conserving and protecting our public lands and the amenities around it. There's also a tremendous amount of opportunity at the state and local level. We partner with the 28 offices of outdoor industry recreation on their agendas, and that's expanding all aspects of trails tourism, the outdoor recreation economy, and working in the state offices. We lobby for those state offices, and then we work to expand their public policy agenda as well too. So lots of opportunities at the lots of recreational opportunities at the federal, state, and local level for recreational bike access, both on road and off. Resilience and growth. We wanted to give you just a few sort of trend lines for how 2024 ended up. And if you are not getting our monthly sell-in and sell-through emails, or you're not tapping into your membership benefits in the member center, send us an email, ask questions in the chat. We can give you more detailed information to make sure you're going into our data dashboards and pulling out the information you need for your business. 2024 did not end as we had hoped. We were hoping 2024 was the year that we sort of pulled out of the bus cycle coming out of COVID. We think it will take all of 2025 to work through inventory, to work through some of our supply chain issues. But 2024 ended at $6.55 billion. It was a 9% decrease over 2023. We also saw a unit decline. 12.12 million units were sold. Sadly, it is the lowest since PFB started tracking our unit sales. And that translates into about a -6% year-over-year decrease. Bright news, because you can't be a bike advocate or work in bicycling without being a glass half full kind of person. 2024 was, for those that are new to PFB, every 2 years, we conduct the bicycle industries and our nationwide bicycling participation report. We've been doing it for over 10 years. And in 2024, I am so pleased to report that more Americans rode a bike than ever before in the history of our recording. We had 112 million Americans rode a bike at least one time. We also saw youth ridership the highest since 2028. We have been seeing an alarming decrease in youth ridership. By all accounts, we've lost a generation of youth cyclists, and that is hugely alarming. But in our 2024 participation study, we saw a 9% year-over-year increase in ages 3 to 9, and a 15% increase year-over-year for ages 10 to 17. So we're seeing, we absolutely have to keep working to continue that trend, to get more kids on bikes, to make sure they have a safe ride from where they live to where they want to go, to school, to practice, to play, you name it. And in an environment where mom or dad is going to let them go ride. So youth ridership, a positive trend. More information, giving you a little bit of an idea of where we see 2025 and beyond. Sadly, S&P, our global forecast, if you're not getting our quarterly S&P Global Risk and Opportunity Forecast, let us know. We can make sure that you're getting those notices and you get them in the member center. Just put in your email and you'll be verified as a coalition member, and you'll get our quarterly risk and assessment. It's one of the best new resources we produced for helping you run your business in the last few years. Sadly, S&P also predicts a 4% decline in total bike unit sales. Recovery is expected for our industry in 2026. The bright shining stars, as many of you know, is electric bikes. S&P is predicting a 21% growth per year, 26, 27, 28. Same kids bikes, a more modest, but up 2%. We will take it. Sadly, adult non-electric bikes, they're predicting for the next 3 to 4 years, a negative 6.6% decrease. All of this economic uncertainty with inflation, with tariffs, it is goes without saying, you know, a tariff is a tax on a bike, and we will see the price of bikes increase. And that will have an effect on consumer preferences and consumer buying patterns. So we are very sober about what is happening in DC with the current tariff climate, and we're doing everything we can as an industry to turn that around. If you left this webinar with one call to action, and I'll reiterate this at the end of the webinar as well, it is to make sure your member of Congress knows exactly what a tariff increase will do, no matter your country of manufacturing, domestic or foreign, and what will happen with steel and aluminum tariffs as well, so that if your local members of Congress know what this is doing for economic uncertainty for your business and how challenging it is in this environment to make bikes when so many things are changing, that will really help our national initiatives to make sure our industry escapes or avoids or mitigates the punitive effects of tariffs on our industry. The last future thing that I wanted to quick talk about is e-bikes and e-bike regulations. As you can imagine, we have been all in for many years now on all aspects of electric bicycles. Model legislation we passed in about 48 US states, and that's the 3-class system. We've been all in on purchase incentives, knowing that by incentivizing the purchase of an electric bike, it drives sales, it drives mobility, equity, and options. It is a climate solution and so much more. So we've been all in on e-bikes for a long time. Also on the aspect of battery recycling, our nationwide Call to Recycle battery recycling program, and all aspects of storage, manufacturing, compliance, regulations, you name it. So on the e-bike front, we will continue to shepherd the bike industry both through opportunities and threats. And we have some really great educational resources coming out this year. We've had e-bike smart in the past, in e-bike campaigns to really educate people on proper etiquette, storage, usage, riding, and more. But we're also excited about really teaching as part of a educational curriculum exactly how to operate electric bikes. And we have a really great proposal. I'm hedging this a little bit because we want to make the big announcement at our Bicycle Leadership Conference in Tucson, but some exciting e-bike education announcements coming in the next few months. Okay, next one. So on this slide, this is our total, this chart shows how big the pieces of the pie for the entire market share relative to one another. And as I outlined earlier, sadly, the pie is decreasing for at least the next 2 years. But the two pieces that are getting larger that I wanted to bring your attention to are e-bikes and road bikes. So you see e-bike in the dark gray, 13, 18, 19, 20. And like I said, S&P is forecasting 21% growth year over year for the next 3 to 4 years. Road bikes are also the category it was actually the only category that showed positive growth in 2024. It was down 1% in dollars, but it was up 3% in units. And that's not typical for what we've been seeing in road bikes. And encouragingly, gravel, as many of you suspected, was the driver of that growth. Gravel is up 3% in dollars and up 24% in units. So we're seeing tremendous growth in the gravel bike category in events around the country. Also, interestingly, e-bikes now make up $1 out of every $5 spent on bikes total. So opportunity in e-bikes, opportunity in road bikes, and more. Member benefits. Want to quick outline some of our member benefits. In our member data dashboard, our business intelligence hub, you have our exhaustive research library. You have our quarterly risk and opportunity forecast from S&P Global. You have our city ratings program. So many of our supplier members look at what is their city ratings. How does their city rate on our annual measurement? We believe what gets measured, what gets done. And so we have a really robust on-road city ratings formula for measuring cities on a scale of 0 to 100, how good they are for safety, accessibility, separation from cars, can you get to where you want to go? And specifically, we help cities improve their city rating score by giving them tangible, tactical things they can do to grow bicycle participation, to improve safety, and to build a connected, protected bike network. I'm also excited to announce coming in 2025 is a similar robust measurement tool on the recreational side of things. We're getting ready in the next week to announce our recreational bike access tool. Funded by REI, it's taken us about 3 years to build this tool. And this is a tool for land managers, for city parks planners, to really help how close are you to accessible bike parks, trails, trailheads. Where should we be spending our money on recreational biking? Separated greenways, single track trails, bike parks, and more. So we'll have a similar robust tool, and our ultimate vision is for our recreational bike access tool to speak to our city ratings tool so that we can truly give city planners, local advocates, the bike industry, the best tools locally to be able to change their bike networks near you. Also coming this year in 2025 is direct-to-consumer data. We've been tracking it for some time and excited to really show you the D2C market, our used bicycle market as well. Have some great partners that on our research and stats committee and great contract partners that have helped us design 2 robust tools that will tell you both the used market and the D2C market. And of course, we'll do a deeper dive on our bicycle participation study. We can drop that in the chat as well, but we can show you more granularly different findings from our participation study. So make sure to sign up for that webinar so we can give you better insight into different categories, different regions, different demographics to show you where people are bicycling in America or where they're not and how we can stem those threats. Where are we next? Let's move the bike industry forward together. I want to invite you to come to our pinnacle event. It's the Bicycle Leadership Conference. It happens every March. We've been in the habit of staying in a community for 2 years, and we're back in Tucson, Arizona, where we will dive so much deeper into each one of these categories. Our keynotes this year are Rich Roll, the ultra endurance athlete and author, podcaster, cookbook author, and more. And also Jim Weber, who was this longtime CEO of Brooks Running Company. And for anybody familiar with Brooks Running shoes, they have been the leader in specialty retail, and sort of his advice as a supplier who's turned around a brand, how really robust specialty retail advice, D2C advice, and so much more. We have Fran Miller, the CEO of Rafa, Brendan Quirk, the CEO of USA Cycling, Elliot Jackson from Grow Cycling is going to be our MC. So much more, but we can drop in the chat as well a link to our speakers that we've released so far. But exciting to have so many folks gather with us in Tucson and tackle our biggest opportunities and, quite frankly, our biggest threats as a bike industry over the course of 3 days in Tucson. Of course, lots of great bike rides and so much more. So, Jordan, I'll bet we have a few questions in the chat.
We do. Thank you so much, Jen. That was so informative. I'm really excited to see what the next 12 months brings us for the bike industry. One question that came into me by DM was, beyond recreation, what other priorities at the federal level is PeopleForBikes working on this year?
Great question. One I failed to mention is that we've already been organizing for the transportation reauthorization. The way Congress works is they do their big, huge spending packages, say every 5 or 6 years, and we know all the money for surface transportation for your on-road network, whether you drive, take a bus, transit, biking, walking, people with disabilities, and more, all aspects of surface transportation get reauthorized in 2026. And we've been working on that for some time. We have our sort of white papers and our position papers and our key initiatives that we'll be championing. But the bottom line is protecting all the funding that will come down and turn into a bike park, a protected bike lane, a bike share system, and so much more. So the transportation reauthorization is, aside from tariffs and aside from the recreational aspect that I outlined earlier, transportation reauthorization will have the most profound impact on bicycling in America and the bike industry in America, making sure that we protect what we have and set us up for even more.
That is a great segue and into my next question. But before I jump into that next question, I would like to remind folks that they can drop their own questions into the Q&A or into the chat, and I will make sure that we get to those. The next question is also kind of related to that surface transportation reauthorization. Why does PeopleForBikes emphasize infrastructure? How does that benefit the bike industry, working on bike lanes and bike parks and things like that?
We know from all the data and all the science and all the practitioners that the number one way to get people riding bikes is through bike infrastructure. And if it's on road, separating bikes from cars, lowering speed limits, bringing in neighborhood greenways. If it's off-road, do you have access to trails, to bike parks, to recreational facilities, and more? Or do you have to have a car to get there? Do you have to have a bike rack to get there? Do you have to have a family structure that can get you there? And so we know from looking at the best places in the world to ride a bike, both on-road and off-road, the number one game-changing factor is always infrastructure by 90%. And so there's many other things we do, like passing the public policies that support that, lowering speed limits, working on safety measures, penalties for traffic violence, and more. We certainly work on that, but we know it doesn't have the traction and the leverage that bike infrastructure has. And ultimately, we know that trails equal sales by about 4 different measures. And so when you have a bike shop near a robust trail system or a great greenway or in a city that embraces bike commuting or bike transportation, we know those bike shops do much better. We know the suppliers in the area do better. So that's why we are laser focused in on infrastructure. And that's why we take a lot of elected officials and leaders from the United States to go see the best bike practices in the Netherlands, in Denmark, in Spain, in Whistler, in Bentonville, you name it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen. We just got a great one in the chat as well. Could you share the work that's being done towards ESG development, materials, production processes, more specific to tires, rubber, but could be a broader approach in general?
Awesome. Great question. And I might need the team to drop a few things in the chat if you won't mind. But we just last year, actually, maybe it was 2 years ago, or last year, sorry, time is a blur, came out with our tire and tube recycling sort of toolkit. We track every bike supplier that does a sustainability initiative or impact report, because there's a lot of great examples of our supplier members out there. Our sustainability working group is one of our biggest working groups. We probably have 50 brands and probably 25 people that regularly attend, and really sharing best practices in all categories, from tire and tube recycling to PFAS to chemicals to apparel, you name it. The biggest accomplishment of that group was 2 years ago when we announced our nationwide battery recycling program. And that was the first transportation sector to do it. We have great compliance from our supplier members, and probably about 2,000 locations around the country. You can drop off a battery, no matter the brand of battery, for recycling and repair. So that group is really good about sharing best practices. We also have a recent report from last year on best practices for packaging. A lot of supplier members are really open sourcing. Hey, we figured it out at brand X. We don't need to own and control this. We want other supplier members to benefit from the research we've done on packaging, cardboard, plastics, and so much more. So we are in the business of creating these toolkits and these best practices and sharing it with our colleagues. Jordan, can you think of anything else I missed? ESG?
I think that covers, yeah, Pete's question. It was a great question. And Pete, I was just looking in my inbox to see if I could track down the toolkit. I can't find it, but if you shoot me an email, I will follow up after this webinar with it. I think we have time for one more question. What BLC content is going to be the most relevant for our employees, and how can I convince my boss to let me go?
Send me an email and I'll call your boss. But it is the premier global bike industry conference, and you name the category of your business, we're going to cover it. And we're going to cover it with proprietary information, with closed doors, that really helps our industry know exactly what's happening out there and how to shape your product, your company, your regulatory environment for growth and for sustainability. So it's also a great future leader cultivation. We have Jordan and I and the other lady leaders at PFB host an annual hike and happy hour. Last year, we had about 80 women at this event, and it was really great for women leaders to meet other women leaders, to grow, to learn. And that applies to everybody who's there. So it's a really great place to network, to grow your business, to do business. This year, the Friday before the event, we will send out contact information for everybody so that it helps facilitate more connection and more business while you're there. Because I promise you, you can't spend 2 to 3 days with the bike industry in Tucson and not come back with business ideas, networking opportunities, and areas of growth for your business, and more sales. So that's why we create this conference: is networking, great bike rides, and of course, leadership development for current and future leaders. Also, Pete, to answer your question, I see the one about gravel. The road bike growth is attributed to gravel. Gravel is absolutely driving that. So we want to continue to bolster that category, continue to look for opportunities for more gravel access, more gravel events, racing, clubs, and so much more. It's a really great on board for all the reasons that we all know in the bike industry that we love gravel.
Great. Thank you so much, Jen. And I want to invite everyone to A, attend the BLC. B, if you're not a People for Bikes member, please consider joining. Your support makes our work possible, and we work for you, making sure that the U.S. is a great environment for the bike businesses to thrive. I've dropped in the chat our member homepage, so you can see all of our resources and all of our benefits. And we are all here at your service to make sure you have everything that you need to run your business. Thank you all.
Our last closing comment is, if you do one thing today, it is find out who your member of Congress is, contact anybody on our team, and we're going to help you talk to them at the state and federal level, so that they know exactly what your business is, how many people you employ, what a great story you have to tell. All you have to do is talk about your business. And we're going to ultimately make sure they understand the impact of the business and economic climate at the federal, state, and local level on your business. So we are only as strong as your relationships with your member of Congress. And fortunately, we can make it super easy for you to get involved. We'll do all the work. All you have to do is talk about your business. So my one call to action, let's talk about your business to your state U.S. representative and to your 2 U.S. senators, so that they can know how great the bike industry is and the power of the bike in your backyard. So thank you for all you do for bicycling. Thank you for being a member of PFB. We hope to see you in Tucson, and send us your opportunities, send us your threats. We're here as your trade association to do so much more. So thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Toby. Thank you to the whole team. And thank you for being a member.
Yes, thank you all. Have a wonderful week.